Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Trees. I'm taking on three of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
Saturday. Woo! What's up, Renee? Saturdays with Renee.
Man?
Black Power Media. Jared Ball. Like, share, subscribe, join the Patreon. All the links are in the show description. Put this in your socials. Let them know you here. What's up, good people? And is that where we're starting, Renee, with the tweet?
We might as well get it out the way so we can move on to the
because again, we do have to be out by 1:00 because Warrior class, and I'm not messing with them. I had to apologize and my mic is not working though. So I tell you what.
What do you mean it's not working?
It's not working right. I just checked it. Hold on a second. Let me. I gotta quit the browser and come back. So speak to the people. I'll be right back.
What's up, good people? I'm on the back end looking at the chat, so I'm going to see if I can shout some folks out. I see Ricky's here. I see Franny's here. David, Chichi Bacha. Hey, Alex. Sugar Booger's here. Big Teal. Thanks, y'all, for jumping on. Marley, what's going on, folks? Thank you for coming in. So far, Saturday is pretty interesting. I am once again at work. I have my schedule all jacked up. Jared, I thought I had this chat. I could hear you fine, so I don't know.
I know, but I could hear it when I went to check the stream. Yeah, that's better. I think that's better.
Okay, there we go.
But I'm sorry. What were you just?
I was just saying I didn't think I had to work today, and then I found out yesterday that I did have to work today, and I was like, "Oof, okay, back to work." But
okay, can you resend the private chat because it clears it out when I refresh and come back? But peace, everybody. Good to see you all coming in. Let's see. There we go.
Got it.
Yep. And I will pull this up here.
You want to show the thumbnail first?
Oh, okay. I see. So yeah, we're being called out today at 1:00 by the Revolutionary Blackout Network. A couple of things have been sent to me, and this is one of them.
That's so wild to me that
But they're saying we smeared them, and they're responding today at 1:00. You and I are pictured here, and then the Remix Morning Show crew is pictured up there.
I honestly like this whole we gonna talk about the other like, first of all, the majority of what you all discussed on Remix had nothing to do with them because Jackie was fully explaining her history with understanding the white left online media people. They haven't been in existence long enough to have been part of really that conversation. That said, a smear to me means I've said something that was incorrect, is a lie, is whatever. So last night, because somebody was like, you smearing them, what's going on, whatever. So I responded it and I sent you the tweet, and I'm just going to make it very, very clear. I try my best to be honest in all things. I don't know everything, so I can't speak to everything that happens outside of my control. But last week, I made it very clear. One, that I was lied about. in public on Twitter, and 2, that I was cursed at. Those are 2 screenshots. The first one is Nick calling me whatever because he said all I did was talk about podcasters and I never talked about other stuff. So I apparently I never post about Black issues. I never post about foreign policy. I never post about Jim Crow Joe. None of that made sense. Apparently I don't do that because, all I do is bitch about podcasters. And then he said I had Dore derangement syndrome. So this was all because I said Jimmy Dore looked like a magician in one of their thumbnails, which, that was just facts. And then the second one was Rome cursing and calling me a lame ass motherfucker. And there were no lies, right? And so, listen, if you're going to say you're being smeared, then that means someone has told it, because that's literally what a smear is someone telling something that is untrue. If people are speaking the truth and making it clear about something that you've said or participated in, that is a critique. It is not a smear. Now, I really, I had jokes on Remix when y'all were talking about this. I don't think it's worth BPM getting into a whole back and forth. I thought it was interesting. Alex and I actually had a short back and forth on Twitter. What I find interesting is they are literally going to now capitalize on attacking BPM because of a claim that you all smeared them. So literally the thing that they are now about to collect super chats and do a whole show on is about the thing that they're claiming is happening to them. So people got to decide for themselves. Like I'm never going to tell people don't go watch them, don't support. People got to do what makes them comfortable. That is not my business. It's not my problem. I stopped giving them money a long time ago. I have no interest in having a back and forth with them. They call me a liberal. I'm an op. I'm a Dem and a Democrat.
So that's what I remember responding to with you last week. I honestly don't remember everything that I said. I have a general, what I think is a frame of an approach to these things in public. So I'm pretty confident in what I would not have said or would have said. But if just for the record, I only am made aware of this because they reached out to a couple people on our platform, and I was sent messages indirectly where I was called all types of motherfuckers and cowards, and I was accused of not confronting Nick with my criticisms of RBN when he was invited here on the morning show a couple weeks ago, out of solidarity with their platform being suspended. And so just to be clear, if I had whatever criticisms I have, to me weren't that deep and it weren't that serious. And if I did have them, so just to be clear, when I know I have a disagreement with somebody who is going to come on the platform with me, I want them to know in advance. If they don't know in advance, I'm not as likely to bring it up. So when someone else invites Nick to come to the morning show to talk about how their platform's being demonetized, whatever, they were being banned by YouTube, out of solidarity, I'm not going to use that moment to engage in criticism of their platform. They were here. He was here to promote that they were. So I wouldn't have used that moment to engage a critique. I just didn't feel it was necessary. I didn't invite him, and we were hosting them out of solidarity. So I didn't, and so that's that point that he apparently is intending to build on today was a hypocrisy he was calling me out for, cowardly hypocrisy he was calling me out for. I will note that the messages of him calling me a coward were sent to other people. So I can't help but find humor in that they weren't sent to me. Not that I want them. I'm not inviting it. I am not, hey, if that's what I don't want any beef. I don't want smoke. I don't want the back and forth. But I have said to somebody who had asked that at this point, if I would not sit down with him or them, once you call me out by name like that, I'm not interested in building.
And that's where I'm at as well. And I understand, like Ricky said, this could have been fixed earlier with a conversation, and maybe, But
well,
my
he said in the messages that he reached out. He claims in the messages, and in one of the tweets I saw that someone sent me, that he reached out to us and we rejected a chance to build with them. No one I'm aware of on this platform is aware of that ever happening. So no one has ever reached out to me saying let's build, and I said no, and then went on here to talk bad about him. So I don't know what that like. But to me, the fact that someone would go from, so for instance, I know that what I would not have said on publicly would have involved name calling or cuss words. It would have involved maybe a little joke, and been centered around our disagreements around what I think is their target audience being white, and that they are not well versed in black radical politics. If that's a smear campaign, so be it. But if there's a disagreement, and if someone like Belay did last week, as many others have done with me and others on this platform, if there had been an issue, he could have reached out and said, "What's up?" and let's build. And at that point, I would have been happy to, or more willing to at least. But to go from zero to name calling, and now we're going to do a whole show calling them out, that's fine. So I think that's all. I think that's it. You could. Yeah. I'm good.
No, that's good. And then, sorry, Ricky, if I couldn't remember exactly what you said in your in what you commented, but the reality of the situation is this issue between me and RBN goes back years now, right? And so I really try my best to not, like, they're muted. I try not to engage with them. Every now and again, like, if I see something that in my mind is such a contradiction in like facts and reality, I feel obligated to say something, just because that's what I do for everybody. And I just don't really feel like I should not do it for a particular group just to, avoid like engaging. So, I don't, as I've said, like, people have to support who they want to support. If you feel like if you feel like that's the channel that you want to support, and you feel like they're bringing good information for you and you want to follow, like, do that. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm not giving them my money. I'm not watching their shows. I really only know when stuff is happening when people send me things, and when they come on to, tell me I'm an asshole and yada yada. So
to Doom's
or apparently
Dungeon.
call me an old bitch, which somebody just said happened on the show somewhere with them. So
right. Oh, so that was another thing. They were calling us old, calling me old, and all of that. So Doom's Dungeon. That's sort of my point. Once we're past that, I don't engage people like that. We don't have to. We're not at war. I'm not angry with them. I don't. The way I like to phrase it is, you've lost the privilege of engaging with me. So because it's also a sign to me that you're not interested in actually building and dealing with contradictions and clarity for organizational purposes and movement.
Is it me?
It seems like an attempt to just name call, one up, and do all that kind of stuff.
I don't know.
No,
why.
I hear you, Doom. I hear you. I'll have to find another way to give lessons for the audience. Now, there are others that apparently, and again, it's not just me. Dorian, I was just about to say that if others on the like, I don't have any. If others on the platform want to engage them, that's fine, and they have their own shows and can host them. I was just saying that I wouldn't be involved with that. Yeah, once we go beyond Jared, I think you're wrong and we disagree, and it gets into all that other stuff, I'm not interested. But if others watch their show and they raise legit criticisms and critiques of me or anyone else, I might be willing to hear that indirectly. I won't be watching, but if
yeah, I'm not participating in that, and we can literally like
criticism.
we can be done with that now. Like, there's so much stuff
there's so much stuff, and I'm ready. Like
let's go.
That first show, I think that first show with you, I was slightly off my prep game, and ever since then I've been working studiously. So where do you want to go? Are we going in order? What do you want?
So why don't since you put his face on the thumbnail, why don't we start with the Dr.
Cornel.
West. Yeah, let's start with the Dr. West so that
All right.
we're going to the headline first.
And I'm happy to I know we can talk about this off air, but just like I like to let folks know that my thumbnail game is what it is. I'm happy to make adjustments in the future. It's just sometimes I'm just moving.
I hear you, but you know what it is? Like when people come for something, right? Like you want to make sure, like I'm not trying to do the flim flam, right? Like don't bring me here for one thing and then you start.
Yeah, I tried to put a whole bunch of stuff in there. Yeah, because I know you got Cop City stuff. I tried to but I threw this in there. I was like, "Woo, Renee is oof."
Yeah,
So
telling you? So here's what happened. So the tweet that I'm retweeting in that, if you click on the one that with the gadfly, someone found a payment to Nick Brana. This was from, I think either the second quarter this year or whatever. So it was a payment of $6,666.67, which is already like a weird number. That to me screams of like it's a third of something, but whatever. So I was like, why are they paying him in July to be the campaign management consulting? Like what campaign management consulting was he doing for the Cornel West campaign? Like what is going on right now? And then it tracked for me that this was not the number that I saw during another meeting when we were talking about essentially, and I'm just going to say it. So there was rumor that Nick Brana was basically blackmailing the Cornel West campaign, right? And that he didn't want to release some things and whatever. So the number that I remembered seeing was way more than $6,000, which is why I was like, that's weird. I don't remember that being the number. So then I went digging. And then that's how I get to this, which is, this is a debt and obligation report. So it's not like pay. It's actually what they basically paid back as an obligation of a debt. And so that amount is over $13,000. This is separate from the over $6,000. So the total was like $23,000 and change.
Yeah, because this one is $16,398.82.
Right. So $23,000 to Nick Brana for what? Like I don't even like. What did he do that? That like.
Could it be one of those like Bobby Bonilla things where what you're initially owed is agreed to be paid out over time, so that A, the recipient can be helped in not overspending, and B, the payer can, based on their budget, pay in installments as opposed to having to have it all up front. Is that a possibility?
It's anything is possible. I just thought it was interesting, and since, in my opinion, Nick Brana is like the king grifter, like I just thought, and that was part of, if you remember, that was what initially had me in contact with you, was because I know Nick, like personally. I've had conversations with him. Like I know he's a grifter, and so when that initial thing happened, I remember being like, you signed on to run with Nick Brana? Like, what in the world? So then as all these things start playing out, and now looking at the monies and all, like it's just part of his grift. But I was floored. But then all of that happened. And then here came the news that he took money from Harlan Crow.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So I admit I didn't, beyond the name, I don't really know much about Harlan Crow other than just what is said here. The GOP mega donor and pal to Clarence Thomas maxed out his campaign donation to a self-described non-Marxist socialist trying to defeat Joe Biden. Has he said that? I don't remember Cornel West referring to himself in this way as a non-Marxist socialist.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about
new?
that. I don't know.
So
but Harlan Crow is so he owns that property where they were taking the pictures. He's the guy who like collects the Nazi memorabilia. Like he's an interest. Like I can't even for the life of me understand why you are in, like, why you're in community with these people. So, you know, I was thrown off because Harlan Crow has already proven himself to be somebody who is not aligned with Black liberation. And he is fully in with this entire madness that's happening with Clarence Thomas and how much money he's taken and the bribing. Like, so if I were running for president, right, I would not want to be associated with this person. So this comes out, people start questioning, like, wait a minute, why are you taking money from this person? And Cornel West is basically like, I'm a free Black man. I could take money, I could take money from him. And you know, going on to this really, like, in what I consider like a bizarre response that indicated that, like, he's friends with this person, and you know, they're an anti-Trump Republican, and like all these things that, in my
so
opinion,
an anti-Trump Republican and a non-Marxist socialist. This is a great combo.
Right. So he's since said that he's a jazz man and he's taken everybody's word in and he's going to send the money back. So he's going to return the money now. So
he did?
That was the latest.
Oh, the last I saw was the one you were talking about where he was saying,
yeah.
I can.
No, I can try and find it. I didn't realize that I didn't put it on the run
because.
But
so initially, I thought this was his response to iMWiL Baraka's point about having removed himself from the game, and unless, I think Baraka said something to the point that if he comes up, he would have to come up with some major donor to circumvent the fact that he had lost access to all those ballots, and to try to recoup any of that in a year would require a match. So I thought maybe this was West attempting to do that. But the responses on those Twitter feeds from him were not good. And
no.
Yeah. So
in my opinion, you should, or not, you can't, because obviously people can do whatever they want, but you should not use your Blackness as an excuse or reason for why you are accepting money from people who are, like, clearly, like, anti-Black. What? You said it like that?
No, because what? Because the other day, you know, Dhoruba in his engagement with iMWiL has been only referring to him as iMWiL.
iMWiL, yeah.
And it came up the other day that is the correct pronunciation.
Yes.
So I've been trying to correct myself because I haven't said iMWiL in my life. So yeah, Ricky, I'm trying to practice if that's how it's supposed to be, you know. But I do need to ask him, or if he's been asked this elsewhere, someone could point me to it, or maybe Ricky knows. But when Baraka breaks down his argument around how West could have made it to the White House, I admit I am very compelled by that argument. I've heard him say it a couple times, but what I haven't heard is what was West and his team's response when Baraka laid that out. In other words, I'm assuming there was a moment where there was a discussion where West told him, "Hey, we changing this up," and Baraka said, "My man, no, you have a way. Don't do that." And I'm very curious to know what that would have been. What was the argument against Baraka's argument for that?
That would be interesting to hear. And this has been, again, like, this is me going back to my same thing that I've been asking from the start, which is, I don't understand.
No. I'm sorry, Renee. Sorry. Just to correct Infinite and the super chat here. No. Nick and RBN, we've moved on from. Nick, Brana from the elections and People's Party is a separate issue that we're talking somewhat about now. So Nick and RBN we dealt with in the first few minutes. We moved into Nick Brana and him being paid still by West's campaign, right? That's what we were looking at. And now we're talking about Nick.
No.
No,
Cornel
not Nick
West
Brana.
campaign,
And now we're talking about
a
sorry, go ahead.
donation that was made to the Cornel West campaign from Harlan Crow, that is now being, according to the latest notification, is being
Right.
returned.
So just to
Yes.
be clear, we are not saying that Nick and RBN took money from Harlan Crow. We are not
Right.
saying that. I just want
No.
to be very clear because of
Well,
all the
not to our
smearing
knowledge.
we're being accused of.
Yeah, let's not
We are
add
not
anything to
saying
it.
that. That's not
No.
what we're saying. We're saying that Nick Brana had an issue with payments from Cornel West campaign, and now Cornel West campaign, separately from Nick Brana and Nick from RBN, has taken money from Harlan Crow for his campaign, but maybe on the way to giving it back. So
Yes, according, because he's a jazz man. So
he's a
according to
jazz
that.
man.
So one of my, as you know, consistent concerns has been the decisions that have been made, right? So first the decision was, okay, you called me third on your list to run for president, and now I'm going to run with you for president, even though I don't have any full understanding of what all you and your organization has been embroiled in for the past however many years and how little you've gotten towards your goal. Then you get another phone call that tells you, no, you should switch and you should run with this party instead, because they at least have, some kind of structure and something set up in advance to do the ballot access and yada yada. So you jump in, okay, we're going to do this. So you move along with them for a while until you realize how much work it's going to take, which again, you should have known in advance, right? Like, I don't understand how anyone signs up to run for president without doing their full diligence and research into what this takes. That said, okay. So now you're with the Green Party. And then now you decide, oh, I'm not going to run with the Green Party. I'm going to run independent instead, because, this whole having to run for the Green Party nomination and having to run for president at the same time. But again, this is not new information. So, and then now you have to return donations because you're taking donations from people that are getting you the side eye. And as you're getting the side eye, you're upset because, this is your brother, and, you've known him long before the campaign. And it's always the same questionable, why are you making these decisions, and how is it that you keep making these decisions without like fully vetting and making like really looking into it. Like, he's brilliant. He's always been, able to vocalize and talk about things and bring really good issues to the forefront and have these conversations. But I don't understand how it seems that these things that call his decisions into question continue to happen over and over again. And it just, I don't know. I can't rock with it. And it's the same questions that I've been asking. And every time I ask them, I'm a hater and I'm this and I'm just a Democrat and da 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 da. But nobody can answer the question, which is, why is somebody who is so brilliant unable to do their legitimate research and make decisions on their own that make sense moving forward?
Even the most brilliant need teams around them. And so even Cornel West can't get everything right. And it feels like he's making a couple mistakes here.
And they're big though. Yeah. They're big mistakes. And it's hard for me as a person who already questions electoral politics, already a lot of times don't vote at the top of the ticket. Like, why would I do that? Like, you can't even, I just can't, I can't, So somebody's saying he's got 13 months. So let's address this, because I have a spreadsheet, y'all, now that everybody's aware of me and my. So let's go to the independent presidential candidate sheet. Yep.
Let me tell you something. Renee is the most thoroughly prepared. I've never worked with anybody in these YouTube streets this thoroughly prepared.
Are you serious?
Never. It's a little intimidating. Yeah, it's a little intimidating. So, but it's also, it's also a confession about my own levels of preparedness. So,
right.
So what are we looking at here? What's
this is a spreadsheet that I created that explains what needs to be done in each individual state in order for someone to run as an independent candidate for president. So I will first, let's just be clear. I got all of this from Ballotpedia. And there were a couple of states that, because it's based on certain percentages, they don't have an updated list yet because it's based on the last time the governor ran or whatever have you. But this is not an easy task. So people who were saying he has 13 months, he does not have 13 months. Right?
Yeah,
it's 13 months until the election, but it is not 13 months in order to get on the ballot somewhere. So the date that's there is the date by which you have to file your paperwork with all of your signatures and make your payment in order to be on the ballot in that particular state. Right? So you have
the
to,
latest is end of August, it looks like.
Right.
Of next year.
Right.
Well,
which
September
is not 13
for North Dakota, but
that's not 13 months from now. Right. That's less than that, significantly.
And then for some of the states it's earlier. So for some states it's in June.
It's June.
I saw.
Right.
Yeah. So you gotta like for Illinois it's June. Maryland it's August. But yeah, so mostly June,
and then
July,
for some
August.
states it's
Montana,
it's tricky, right? Like it's not as simple like just go out there and like New Jersey is relatively go out there, get your 800 signatures. That's it. For some, you have to research who ran for governor in the previous year, how many people voted for that governor's race, because you need 3% of the amount of people who voted for the governor's race in the prior election.
Wow.
Right? For some places like in Maine, for example, like, you know, a lot of people, when they talk about signature collection, they collect a significant more amount of signatures than you need so that they can make sure that they get through that threshold within whatever they collect. In Maine, you need 4,000 signatures, but you're not allowed to collect more than 5,000. And that's to make sure that you don't just overwhelm the office with signatures that they have to then comb through, right? For some, I think it's like Indiana, that was the most unique one that I saw, and I hope it was Indiana, but it was like 2% of the Secretary of State. Right? Like who's looking for this?
And what do you mean? You have to get 2% of the votes?
Whoever the prior vote for the Secretary of State, however many people voted in that election, you have to calculate 2% of that number of people, and that's the amount of signatures you need. And then there's one that I left blank because, and it's towards the top of, maybe it was, there it is, Arizona. So Arizona, it's 3% of unaffiliated registered voters.
So you have to appeal to non-registered voters.
Whoever is not registered with a specific party. So this is not simple work, right? And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, and I hope I left it on there.
Why does UPP need 20,000 now? Oh, because Maryland's changing the Maryland's has changed their requirements.
Oh, did they really? So see, and so even that, right? Like this is all based on whatever information was available, you know, at this time. If states change it, they have to figure out what the change is, and then they have to go from there, right? So this is a lot of work. So when you scroll all the way down to the bottom, I think I put the sum, you know, the calculation in to count up all the numbers so that you can see the full amount of signatures that you need to collect that need to be verified between all the states. And I think it's like 800,000, right? That is a lot of work. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of planning. That's a lot of people out on the streets. Like, yes, Whole Earth, this is the requirements for independent candidates who are unaffiliated with a party. This is the role. This is what has to be done. It is, and I'm not saying, again, this is not me saying it can't happen, right? Like maybe he'll have enough people on the ground and he'll have a plan and they'll be able to get it all together and get it done, right? Like anything could happen if you have the right people and the right amount of people on the ground to help you get this work done. But this is not a simple task. And this is the thing that I feel like people don't understand when they jump and they say things like, oh, there's plenty of time for all. There's not a lot of time. And it is a lot of work to get this type of thing done. So if you miss this major point about, what is required for someone who is running as an independent candidate, and you don't understand the amount of signatures that are needed, and that you have to do this across the country, and every state has a different, like if you look, every state is different. Every state got something to, either the date is different, the number is different, if there's a fee or not is different, where they get the number from is different. Like, it's a lot of work, and it's hard to run an independent candidate. Like, it's really, really hard to run as an independent candidate. And I just feel like, I feel like if you miss that part, it's very easy to be dismissive of the critique of how is he going to get this thing done, because you're not really understanding how much work needs to happen in order for it to succeed. Like, it's a lot of work.
Clearly. I don't even know what to say. I that's why I'm saying I wish I would know what that conversation was like. Because I saw someone raise an eyebrow when I mentioned this earlier in the chat that I understand how it sounds. Initially, it sounds crazy that Cornel West could have ended up in the White House, but as I keep saying, twice now I've heard iMWiL Baraka break it down, his argument down twice. And it's compelling, the way he explains the division of the electorate, the popularity of Cornel West, the particular historical moment, the weakness of the existing popular candidates. It was all I can say is it was, to me, a compelling argument that I would like to know what the response is to that. So maybe there's an equally compelling argument for why West felt the need to break away from the Green Party, and that would give him a better chance. I admit I don't see it, but wow.
Right. And listen, again, not that the Green Party is not without its own issues, right? Like, something that has been discussed that I feel like is really important is there is a huge lack of representation of Black people, but they exist, right? There's a Black caucus, right? There's actually, like, there are Black people who exist within the party. There's an entire caucus. There's a lot of conversations. There's a lot of stuff, but I watched the interview when iMWiL and Daruba came on, and I didn't quite get to the end of it, but I watched enough of it that I figured it out. But this was a moment that he really could have utilized to build that strength within the Green Party. Like, people were coming in, like, people were jumping on and saying, like, listen, like, if he's gonna run, we believe in him as a person, we believe in the things that he's speaking about, this, that, the other. We'll take a look at the Green Party, and that could have been utilized. And I don't know. It was disheartening to me, because I was concerned that this was going to be the end result. And then when it happened, I was like, there we go. Now what? Like, now what's going to happen? Now what is the plan going to be to build a base of Black working people, so that, we can have some kind of say in anything, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, the whole thing to me is just like, great.
So if you don't mind, and if you do, just check me on it. But that does lead me to want to mention the other, what else you asked me to check out for today, which was a couple of things that I think are related to how Black people are engaging the electorate. One is the Ras Baraka issue in Newark, and this whole Black mayor thing. And the other one was this, as I understood it, I'm not familiar with her, but Dr. Gentles on Bob Law's WBAI show.
Yes.
Which I have a number of notes on as well, because I think because both of them in different ways, from my view, encourage a more radical approach to how we engage struggles for power. So
right.
I'll let you, if either of those are acceptable, pick one or whatever you
So, all
want to
right,
do.
so let's start with Newark, just because I would really, this is something that I think people are not understanding how difficult it is becoming in these cities with Black mayors, right? Because people are so impressed with having the Black face in a high place, and they don't understand the contradictions that are becoming a part of the problem when this exists within these cities. So Chairman Zulu Sherrod, who is the chairman of the new African Black Panther Party, which is based out of Newark and is part of the Second Rainbow Coalition, has been doing multiple interviews. And this was the first one that he had sent to me, and this was a while ago, but I thought what he said about electoral politics was so powerful, and like just call it out. And I wanted people to listen to it.
It wasn't that long ago. It was last week.
I know, but
he's been
doing
a
double
few. Check.
No. He's been on, I think, like 3 or 4 different things doing interviews, and it's really surrounding trying to get people to understand the dynamic that is being created within Newark between the Black power structure and the regular working Black people that are on the ground and are seeing all the contradictions that are happening. So if you want to go to that, he explained, all right, before you play it. So he explains a couple of things. One, part of the issue that has created this situation between Ras Baraka and this group in Newark is Ras Baraka got called out about housing in Newark. Housing is a massive, massive problem in Newark. People are losing their housing. There's a lot of problems going on. Housing is a mess. And someone, it was Chairman Africa asked him a question about the housing and basically called out, why is the housing being sold off to these LLCs and being used to pay shareholders? Like, what is going on in the city? And it turned into a big thing. And now he's like in court. Ras Baraka got him arrested. Like, there's all this stuff happening behind the scenes. So now there's this huge, there's a split now within Newark with the organizers and the people who are supported by Ras Baraka and support Ras Baraka, and the people who are kind of on the ground. So it came to this question about electoral politics. So you can play the part that I said to play if you want.
All right. Yep.
We turned around and left. But I don't know if you have followed what has been happening here in the city of Newark, New Jersey. But there is a strong polarization in the streets between the people that have to get up and work every day and the folks that are in a position of power, authority, and influence. And we have joined the line. We said that we're going to work on behalf of the people. And whoever don't like it, whether it's Ras or whether it's the next administration, we're going to continue to build base areas of social, cultural, and political power. So in a nutshell, that's what transpired, comrade.
Can you repeat for us what Captain Africa said that set the mayor off so badly?
I would like to ask you a question about housing. And Ras Baraka ignored him. And then he said, well, housing in the city of Newark are being sold to investors on Wall Street. We would like to know why you don't have a policy in place to address this gentrification.
I think that was
so
there more?
There's a second part. The second one starts
at 11:45.
Yeah,
no,
it's her. Go to 12:20 because that's his answer to the question.
Do you want to state the question?
Glenn Ford said it perfectly. The Black Miss Leadership class are the individuals that came to power in 1972 in the Gary, Indiana Convention with Incidentally, Mary Baraka was there. And their objective was to develop a political party that would challenge the other two established parties. We know what happened there, so I don't have to get into that history. But electoral politics for oppressed people is like asking which snake you want to die by, the boa constrictor or the viper. Both of them have the capacity to extinguish your life. The Democratic Party is the war party. It is the party of exploitation. It is the Jim Crow party. And our people have been duped by the Black misleadership class to believe that our interest is the same interest as McDonnell Douglas, who dropped bombs in Africa. That our interest is the same as McDonald's, who kicked peasants off the land to make tomatoes in Latin America. That our interest is the same as a Bill Clinton, who has used and exploited the cultural image of our people in order to pacify us so he could continue to rape and rob the Haitian people out of their resources in Haiti. Go back and look what they did, comrade, when the first earthquake happened in the mid-2000s. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton got with the Red Cross. They raised over $1 billion. And guess how many homes they built up to this date in Haiti? Yes, 600 homes. So what I'm saying to you is that the Black misleadership class are leading us down a dead-end street. Our objective is not to accept capitalism, imperialism as a fundamental practice. Our objective is to overturn and destroy this system that is responsible for the misery of all oppressed people around the world. So it tells you, like Huey P. Newton said, we have two evils to fight: capitalism and racism. And the Black misleadership class have to decide they're going to get with the people or they're going to lay their fortunes down with the oppressor.
You meant
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
Yeah, he earned that. He earned that. And if I may, because I saw you engaging in the chat around this issue, I just want to be clear, and Renee can attest to this. As soon as I heard reference to New Black Panther Party, I confirmed with her that this was not the group associated with that still that under that event that I still struggle to even make reference to around what happened to Dhoruba. So I was very clear to be with Renee just to make sure, because that no one in that group is accepted here. So I just would want, we did check into that. Renee confirmed from me.
Yes.
And then I want to state
Zulu Sharad is on record speaking about that event and saying that they very clearly have stood on the side of Dhoruba, and that they don't have nothing to do with that, and that they did not even want to move forward with calling themselves Black. Like they actually went to Black Panthers and got permission, to move forward. Right. They do political education on Sundays for the community. Like this is not them. Yeah.
So I won't. There's so much more I would want. It's not my place to say, so I'll leave it there. But I will say that we did look into that because yeah. That said, I also I sent through you, Renee, to the parties involved. I want to say again publicly that I misspoke last week when it came to Captain Africa and his exchange a couple years ago with Mark Thompson. It was Mark Thompson that put his hands on, appears to, in the video, have put hands on Captain Africa first. I think I had it backwards. So I put the comment on the video, pinned it so that would be clear there. I reached out through you to them to make sure they were clear, that I'm clear, and apologized to get my facts straight on that. Okay. And absolutely, we checked into all of that. Everybody's clear, and we moved on, and we got to the point you just played there with Margaret Kimberly on Black Agenda Radio, that astute analysis. And I listened to the whole interview. It's a very good interview.
Yes, it is.
And it speaks to, as I was saying, a lot of the issues that I think we're struggling with. Dag, I got some different setting on now. Did I change my settings?
You did something because you just started sounding like grumbly.
I don't sound right?
Oh, you're good now, but it was just now, whatever you had did for a second, it was like.
No, my screen was moving around. I don't know what's going on. So, but the sound is okay? Okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right. I was trying to pull up my, okay, there we go. So one, I was very interested, and I would love it if we did it here on with you or elsewhere. I would love it if we had more conversations first of all around that second Rainbow Coalition.
Yes, and they are already waiting for the invite, so we can do it here. We can do it somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll let you can facilitate that however you want to proceed. I'm down. I would love. I remember years ago I put in a bid. I reached out to Ward Churchill and I was like, I heard there's an elders council of the original Rainbow Coalition, and how can I be down? Like, how can I support? I didn't earn my stripes, so so I didn't get invited, but whatever, so I'm very much interested in that. And then there was a discussion of, okay, so and then let me just, when listening to the interview, there was a discussion of all that has gone wrong apparently with Ras Baraka's mayorcy, or whatever the word is for that, mayoral presence, whatever the word is. And you put in the run sheet. I didn't see this part, and I'm glad. I didn't see your full summary, but you quoted exactly what I wrote down on mine. So we heard the same thing. So Ras Baraka is quoted in this interview. Now, I didn't find the original quote, so I will at least admit that. I did try to do a quick look. I don't know where it was said, but he is quoted as saying, and let me read what you wrote here, and then I'll ask you to break it down. As saying exactly, quote, "I don't know why people still consider me to be an activist. I've long left those practices. I am now a member of the Democratic Party."
Mm-hmm.
Yo.
Right. And that's why I pulled the quote. So, I mean, we can go into the interview because he actually says where he got that sentence from, because this is Ras Baraka talking somewhere. And
right, but I don't remember him saying a date or a source.
He said he said where he heard it, and I can certainly ask Chairman Zulu for the information. I'm sure he can give it. But he clarified, I'm not part of that revolutionary game. I'm not part of, changing the system for the streets. I'm part of the system now. He made it very, very clear, right? And name farmers, you are right. When people tell you who they are, believe them, right? Because they're giving you everything that you need to know. And so it's interesting to me as someone in New Jersey, and I don't live in Newark, but it's like the town over from where I live. And, it's interesting to me to see how this has really played out, right? Like, there are a lot of organizations running out of New Jersey that are supposed to be, supposedly like anti-cop and, like all these different things, but they're all working with Ras Baraka, who is fully in with the Newark Police Department, right? And I don't, the whole thing is really problematic, because it's the same problem that continues to repeat itself with people who get into a space. And part of the reason that they get into that space is because they are Black and they have a historical connection to something that is, supposedly, that's something that is supposed to be working towards Black liberation and the upliftment of Black people and the fixing of the situation, material conditions for Black people. And then they get into that space and they like either forget, right, that was why they got there, or they simply decide like it's not beneficial for them to be doing this particular fight anymore. I just I don't I don't know. And I've had many conversations over the years where I've said like I don't know what it's like to be that person, right? So I try not to make assumptions about what happens when they get into those spaces, right? I don't know like what that's like to be living with the type of pressure you are dealing with once you get into a position of power as a Black person within this system, right? So because I don't know, I'm not going to speak to that part. That all said, I feel like if you can't hold on to the thing that puts you in that seat, then don't run or leave, resign. Like if you get there and you realize, whew, like this is not what I thought it was going to be, and there's no way that I can survive this system as it is in order to do the thing that I ran on doing, then I would almost prefer to see you quit and let somebody else go there. And then you go back to being like on the ground and doing things in the community and helping the people and working from the outside. Like it's so hard for me to fully understand it. And I just, I've been asked if I wanted to run for stuff. No thanks. No shot. Not happening.
Historically, what used to interest me in that question is just what you said. Like, I would run only to represent the actual politics that need to be represented and to have the whole thing be scuttled and destroyed just to make the point. Or to get to the point where you could say, look, from the inside of the mayor's office, this is what's really going on, and this is why the seat has limitations. So even if you get elected, if Roz came out, so for instance, when I first heard the brother make that quote, if Ras Baraka was saying that in the context of, I'm a Democratic Party mayor, here are the limitations put on this office. Here are all of the inducements to sell out. Here's the pressure from the police. Here's the pressure from the business community. Here's the pressure from the Black bourgeoisie. If he was saying this in the context of, I'm now explaining to you why when you elect people like me to these seats, even if we want to be revolutionary, there are limitations, I would think this is fine. That's great. You're fulfilling a I think an important role. But I'm suspicious that the context was, as I think was presented in that interview, stop expecting me to do anything because I'm in this to win this. I'm in this to do the Democratic Party thing. And that means standing with the police, standing against this, standing, what else did he report? 50 to 60% of public housing in Newark or all of New Jersey is owned by Wall Street?
In Newark specifically.
So if Ras Baraka is going to come out and say, listen, I'm a mayor and I'm trying to be a revolutionary, but 60% of public housing I don't even control or is owned and manipulated and benefiting Wall Street, here's what the limitations are on my office, I think that would be of value. But I don't get that. I get the idea that that a version of what Obama used to say, if you want to make me do it, you have to make me do it. Like, you got me elected, and that in and of itself wasn't enough. If you want me to act as the president, you wanted me to act like, you have to get out in the streets and make me have to do it. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I thought our activity as voters was to get you elected. Why now do we have to go back into the street to get you to now do the stuff we voted for you that you said you were going to do, and why we voted for you? So it's like it's they just keep moving the goalposts and moving the hustle, and it's why I really, really would like to see, and I'm going to keep bringing it up here, and I don't know really how to move it forward, but I would really like to see us, even as a platform experiment, and maybe even as a more maybe as a Saturdays with Renee experiment. What would it look like if we were to develop an autonomous Black radical electorate? Again, the after party, whatever we want to call it, and that said, look, we're only voting for people who have previously signed on to these bright lines. So we could tailor it for every specific municipality. So in Newark, here are the things that you have to be doing if you want our vote. Period, full stop,
Right.
end of story. That's it. Here, and then maybe even get to the point where we are going to say, Renee, would you run on this after party platform, even if it's within the Democratic Party, given a specific municipality and whatever its relationship is to these, in terms of, in other words, if it was only logical to try to actually win if you ran within the Democratic Party, would you do it on these principles, this platform, to the extent, and then when the party crushes you, and we would use that to expose all the contradictions and move forward?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just,
I don't know.
but it's crazy. And what somebody asked, if people in Newark are asking the question of how these zones are being created, and essentially what's happening is the city council in Newark is voting and deciding that they're going to sell properties to this LLC or to this, realtor, and like they have a whole system set up where they're moving properties all, from Newark to different people for ridiculously low amounts, I will note. And then now, the city no longer has control of that. There's just a lot happening, and it's very hard for me to believe that it's not happening because Newark is a majority Black city. Like, they don't care about the people. And I think what's also disheartening to me is to see how these people who are doing work for the community are by the powers that be in Newark. Did I lose? Am I lost?
You froze there for a second. What were you saying that?
Okay.
That by the powers that be, what were you saying there?
By the powers that be in Newark. Like, why is Captain Africa being pulled into court? Right? Why are activists being prevented from going into citywide meetings? Like, why are these things happening with a group of people who are giving out food every Wednesday, who are going and helping to clean up properties when their landlords aren't doing it, who fought to have a community center? Like, they're doing a lot of work for people in Newark. Like, why aren't they being heralded as a group that's trying to do for the people? Why are they fighting with the power structure?
Break that down for me also, because to your point, Captain Africa is discussed in this video. First of all, quickly let us know who Captain Africa is, because he's discussed in this interview.
Yeah.
And to your point, why is Ras Baraka calling the police on him? If I understood that part, that the argument, the claim was that Baraka called the police, or weaponized was the word, the police against Captain Africa and his organization. Could you?
So there was, and I don't have the information on when this all occurred. So I'll have to, again, I'm happy to go back, and you know what, the New African Black Panther Party will come on and break all of this stuff down, so we can also bring them on. But Captain Africa confronted Ras Baraka, I don't know if it was at an event or something, to ask about this housing issue. Now, Captain Africa, and I tried to remember, I don't know if you went back to see if you saw the episode that you did on your book, that he came onto and spoke to you about how within a community, people could pool resources and pool money and purchase a property and do something.
Hold on, you breaking up there again. Hold on. Uh-oh.
Oh, this is not good.
There you go. Try that last part again. I think you're back now.
All right. I don't know. I'm at work. So so when he was on your book breakdown, and I think the disconnect was you were talking about general pooling of Black buying power, and he was talking about within a community pooling resources in order to, fix something or provide a resource within that specific community, which is what they're doing. That's what they're doing in Newark. So you all didn't actually agree. You were talking about two different things. So Captain Africa is part of the New African Black Panther Party. And he confronted Ras Baraka about this housing situation, and it turned into a back and forth, and he got arrested. And my understanding is that now he's being pulled in and out of court as part of a fight, essentially to prevent him from participating or being around Ras Baraka when there are things happening, which to me is wild. Like, you have a organizer in your community who you are blocking from participating in things because you don't want to get confronted about your contradictions. And that's what it's about. He doesn't want to be confronted. And that's wild to me.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, I reached out to my buddy Dr. Burrows for help on that quote. And the suggestion, I don't think this is. So Dr. Burrows said, all I know is that he now wants to be governor and
Yes.
is now acting like
Ras
that.
Baraka wants to be governor. Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense. If Baraka has an eye, that is Ras Baraka has an eye on the governorship, he can't be any more aggressive in supporting the local concerns of poor Black residents of Newark.
Right. But that's the problem, right? If you go in, when you were a city council person, you spoke about Black liberation, you spoke about fixing Newark, you spoke about the housing crisis, you spoke about all these things, and you proceeded to run for mayor as a continuation of your fight that you started when you were in city council. It is wild to me that instead of returning to your city after you did your stunt, you did your mayor thing, returning to the city and fighting within the city of Newark to continue to fight for those things, to change the material conditions for the people in Newark, you decide you're going to run for governor and you're going to keep moving up the chain. And this is the same problem over and over and over again with these Black people, this Black misleadership class, and people who get into these spaces and they get to be a voice, and they get there because they scream about the plight of Black people, and then they get there and they forget that they're supposed to be screaming about the plight of Black people. What is going, and
it is the electoral version of my buying power argument and any critique of Black capitalism. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's use Blackness and Black collectivity to get noticed, to get elected, to get support for your business. And at first opportunity to get white venture capital, white votes, and a move on up electorally, or to sell on out and up business-wise, they do it. And the community is left holding the bag, pun intended, and not the bag we're looking for, but the empty bag of false promises. So it's and similarly the why am I the brother that was in the interview? Why am I slipping on his name all of a sudden? What that I listened to the whole thing. Zulu
Sherrod. Mm-hmm.
Zulu Sherrod, right. The other thing that he pointed out of the many good points he made was that he called out young Chokwe Lumumba and Jackson for the same thing.
Right.
And both of them, sons of revolutionary radical fathers and figures, have for many been disappointing once elected to office. And again, if they're not using that elected space to expose the contradictions of that space, then there really is even less value to the run and even more harm, I would argue. I would argue that because the symbolic involvement of radical revolutionary extensions, sons, et cetera, and so forth, taking office and still not producing, or worse, taking very mainstream or right-wing positions politically, it just makes...
Yeah. And so Diverse Tribe is like, are these rhetorical questions? I thought this was about political education. Part of people, you don't always have to provide an answer as part of political education, right? Sometimes political education is about raising the contradiction and introducing a conversation about something that people don't understand is happening so they can be aware of the contradictions that they are currently unaware of. That is also part of political education. So we have 2 hours here, my friend, and I get that you want us to have an answer for everything and you want us to be able to respond to these things in a way that's, official for you to say that like we've solved the problem, but I don't have a solve for that problem, right? I don't know how to stop Black people from getting into positions of power and then saying I'm not going to do the thing that I ran on in order to get into this position of power. I don't know how to stop it. Now, Ricky is part of multiple organizations. And one of the things that one of her organizations is doing is raising an organization from the ground up to fight against the political structure and getting people to understand that it's not just that electoral politics is the problem, right? It is also that the system is built in order to have people like do this fight about electoral politics, right? There's a lot more that can be done from the ground, but that's not going to happen right now on YouTube, right? Like, go join an organization. There is not a resolve. The only thing that we can do is organize, work together, and try to come up with strategies that can work within specific communities or within smaller communities to try and raise contradictions and to provide resources for those people who are most struggling. That's what you need to do.
And you can join Ricky and others, because I feel like Ricky is probably chatting either from the spot or on her way to the spot, because BAP's Baltimore BAP's Baltimore chapter is hosting this conversation at Douglas Memorial Community Church today in just a little while from 1 to 3.
She's running late, she said.
She's running late? Oh, okay. So I just called her out inadvertently. Okay. So but to Renee's point and to Ricky's point and to our point collectively, these are things that are happening, and we can't, we do it the best we can with
Right. And somebody says it. The problem they have with solutions argument is it's based on the assumption that people truly understand the problem when they often don't. And that is 100%
and that
true.
Renee leads me to what I wanted to raise with you about the other conversation that I heard on our dear brother Bob Law's WBAI show, because I don't know who Dr. Gentles is, but I'm afraid that I find myself in that same space of disagreement around some of the popular phrasing that I heard, that I'll invite you to start us off considering, that in terms of the point of the conversation that we were listening to was this question of how, Bob Law kept saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to get there? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And she kept repeating very popular and I think empty tropes. Again, blaming Black people as being, quote, resistant to correction. Saying that we're not doing enough to do what Jews have done, which is, again, I just think an immensely flawed approach. She made reference to Dr. Anderson. I have to assume that was Claude Anderson. And I just am in deep disagreement with him over his analysis of capitalism, et cetera, and so forth. And then they concluded for our part with this discussion of Minister Farrakhan and Maulana Karanga being correct in their assessment that we aren't collectively, that Black people aren't engaging with principle and character. We're just out here being ratchet and condemning our elders for criticizing and judging us. And I just have so many problems with that approach to why we're not powerful. But
so it was an interesting conversation, because when they first started, I didn't think it was going to take that turn. So if you remember when I first sent it to you, I was like, I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but there's a few things here that I feel like might be worth talking about. And then I finished listening to it and I was like, she's doing a whole lot of blaming of Black people for problems that Black people didn't actually create. But I would say there was one thing she said, and it was the quote that I put into our run sheet that I thought like was something that I felt was the one thing she said that really rang true for me, which was essentially that Black people are spending too much time like living the identities that were created for us, right? Versus determining who we are and who we're going to be and doing that for ourselves. And that rang so, like, it just was like ringing in my ear. Like, this is so true, because if you think about like the music and the, this, even like what we're sold as Black buying power, and what's the thing that you need to do. You have to have the right sneakers, and you have to have this thing, and you have to have the car, and you have to wear the silk pajamas when you're outside your driveway, like all these right, all these things. But who made the decision that that was the way that Black people needed to live and to survive in order for us to really be the masters of our own identity and the decision makers on how we move forward through this world, right? So I I had a tough time with the latter half of that interview, to be honest. I was much more in sync with the first half, which is that there's and this is where I agree with Diverse Tribe, right? There are a lot of conversations, there are a lot of summits, there are a lot of, we're gonna do this live stream where we're gonna talk about these things, and there are very few opportunities, if you don't look for them, to actually engage in opportunities and work that is going to move towards the actual change in material conditions for people, right? And so, it's a tough space, because if you live in a place where those things aren't readily like available for you to even know they exist, right? How do you find them? Right? If you're a singular person who lives in a community where you see a lot of homeless people, and you're not really sure what to do, right? How do you address this problem that's in your city? But every time you go to one of the local like nonprofit organizations, they're paying their people really well. Like their executive directors making real bank, but they're not really doing anything to change the homeless situation, right? So then what do you do? Like, you out there on your own trying to fix the homeless situation for the entire city? Like, it is really tricky. So, all right, so he just sorry, I don't mean to, identify. So Diverse Tribe just says, how are solutions actually developed when it comes to our problems? They are developed by organizing, by finding a group that is actually about something legitimate and working with that group to work towards that thing. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in these national nonprofits and these groups that, are making money, or these like clout chasing, like, oh, they do these YouTube things, and or they're on Twitter and all these things. Like, that's not where the work is done. Exactly, Ricky. The work is developed within organizations. So you have to go find a group to work with. Like, I was thrilled when I found this group, this new African Black Panther Party group, because I was like, there we go. I was thrilled when I found Montclair Beyond Policing, because they're writing letters every month to prisoners, right? I was thrilled when I discovered that the Green Party in Jersey actually like does stuff, right? They're actually going out, they're talking to people, they're participating in things. They're like, so, but you have, like, if I don't make the attempt to find those things, you're not going to find them, because they're not meant to be readily available. They're not meant to be things that people engage in, because if all the people really started engaging in an organization, the system's going to they're going to get wrecked. They're not trying to have that happen. Like, they're not pushing for that. They want you to be distracted. They want you to be focused on the nonsense. They want you to be talking about all the foolishness, right? They're not trying to have people organized towards bettering their own material conditions, because how can they control you if they let you do that?
So absolutely. And so, first of all, to the point that you were making about acting on our own identity, or not on our own, acting on others' version of our identity, something to that point, because I heard that's what one of the points that she was making was that. But this to me spoke to the flaw in the analysis and the framing of that whole conversation, because Malcolm X and many others have pointed out, Malcolm used to say something to the effect that the American Negro was an invention of the white man. I have, and others have, simplified or modified that frame to the point of saying all of our identities have been constructed in ways that many of us are forced to be unaware of. The idea that any of us would argue over identifying with European imperial creations such as Ghana, Kenya, the United States, Jamaica, Panama, and we identify with these identities that have been imposed on us, racial identities, reducing Africans to Negroes, and all of these different, defining what womanhood or all of these things are imposed. The problem I have with that, the approach that I heard in that radio discussion, was that there isn't sufficient appreciation for how those identities are constructed and what the process is that produces these identities. So when the conversation turns from that and without that proper understanding or appreciation, that's how it ends up being turned against us. The effectiveness of the psychological warfare plays out in what I heard in Dr. Gentle's analysis, which is that instead of understanding that, instead of extending the logic of our identities have been imposed and created for us by others without our interests at heart, she goes the other way to say, even with that basic understanding, then to say that it's us who haven't accepted Minister Farrakhan and Maulana Karenga's call for a righteousness and an improved character. And I struggle with that. I've never really appreciated that approach to organizing Black or oppressed people, to walk into a room and to say, you all are of bad character because you're not listening to Minister Farrakhan, even as we understand that identity is in and of itself been imposed and created. So I get it's frustrating. I walk around campus. I'm not going to front. I leave my office. I walk around campus. I see people in my own classroom wearing things I don't think should be worn outside in public. I don't think that's appropriate for a classroom. I don't think that behavior is appropriate for public anywhere or for a university setting. But after my initial reaction of, ooh, I really don't want to be seeing all that, I'm not going to turn around and blame teenagers and young people who have themselves been raised in a society that my generation has not turned into a revolutionary one, and then have not been educated or brought up or encouraged to do any other thing other than that. So I'll stop here by saying, where you ended, the only hope we have is to organize for actual political power, the ability to impact our communities in ways that will change any of this, but result ultimately in a material redistribution and revolutionary adjustment. So I'll just I feel compelled to also say, when I hear the references to Karenga, Claude Anderson, and Farrakhan, I think that repeated cycle is limiting and continuing to cause inhibited analyses.
Right. And I think people also, somebody mentioned in the chat, and I wish I could remember exactly what he said. It was Al Unique, and he said something about basically like how people who are politicized look down on others, right? Right. And this is 100% correct. Like people who think they know everything are so quick to be dismissive of people who they decide don't know as much as they do, right? And it's so easy to make judgments about other people based on how they're dressed, or how they look, or how they sound, or their accent. No, and listen, I'm not perfect. Like I make this mistake all the time where I think, I make an immediate judgment about somebody and then they straighten me out because they know way more than I do, right? And so a lot of this has to really just be about having conversations, right? Like actually going into your community and talking to people that maybe you don't even understand how much of a role they're playing in doing things to adjust those conditions within communities. So
no, that's real. I think that's and I'll just personalize this. I do this as a self-check because I do believe that analytically I was going to say this is a joke, but it's going to be I think it'll be misinterpreted. But I do think analytically, I'm better than everybody. Every time I hear somebody say something, I'm like, that's whack. But as a self-check, first of all, once I step off of that ego, I realize, okay, that's not always right. And I'm checked all the time and corrected appropriately all the time. But then really, more importantly, analytically, and this has been what has helped me is teaching, is being able to step back and to say it to really, and this is where, for instance, Diallo and I have this issue. This is one of the cruxes of the issues that he and I have, that I am far more willing to appreciate the conditions that produce the bad analysis than he is. So once I step back from my analytical ego moment and to remember, how did I break the chains of my horrific analysis and what others have not been exposed to through that interruptive process, it's much easier. It's much easier to step back and relax and be like, I don't agree with you, but I understand how you reached this conclusion. How else could you have reached another conclusion is really what and I do think we have to be mindful of that. And that's why, again, we have to always endeavor to work with other people and be in principled allegiance with other people, because my analytical ego needs to get checked. And that's why I used to joke all the time that I even tell my daughters this all the time. You should always look to be the smartest person in your circle. And then once you think you are, you have to expand that circle.
That's a good way to look at it. Yep.
Because and I really do that. And if my two closest friends would ever get any dumber, I might catch up, but I just can't catch up to them. So I just am stuck in this cycle of permanent chasing. But if I ever thought that I was analytically, superior, quote unquote, to them or smarter than them, I would definitely try to get more people in the circle.
I want to invite X Friedman to never come on this show again, because I don't understand how you can come on a show that is literally me and you talking and do this every week. Like, just don't come on. I didn't ask for you. I didn't invite you. Like, I don't. Wild. It is wild to me that people.
So I don't know what. So I need to check with you on this. Let me just quickly, another off the record conversation held publicly. For my shows, I will set, like for my independent shows, I will often set subscription requirements for comment. I don't know if you want that. It may slow some of that down, at least make people subscribe for 60 days, which is usually the setting I put on it. They have to be subscribed for 60 days before they could chat. It doesn't always work. Apparently there are workums.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'll just ban. I can ban. I just ban.
It annoys me. Like, I don't know why bother? Like, the show is literally called Saturdays with Renee. You know who's going to be on here. So you jumped on here just to be a jerk. For me, I'm like, what's the point?
But I don't know how you feel about it. But the way I feel would be if you have principled, substantive, referenced criticism, I'm maybe not happy to hear it, but I'm willing to hear it.
I'm happy to, because as I say, I'm not right about everything, and I certainly don't know everything, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. That's why I'm always in these damn rabbit holes, because I get wind of something that I don't have any information about. So I do some work to try and see if I can figure it out. But there's only but so much you have time to like research and learn and whatever. And I'm good if people think I'm wrong. I'm okay if people think, I need to be critiqued. And if there's something that, needs to be checked, like, I'm good. Like, I don't have an issue with that. But to just come on and be like, it's the hater. Like, you knew it was me. So what was the point? Like, you jumped on just to say that? Like, for what? Like, you could have, like.
So, like, folks know, like, this is what I appreciate about Ricky. Folks know Ricky gives me among the hardest times that I get around here. But it's coming from somebody involved in activist organizations, so I'm always, willing to, and it comes from people who are like, I'm gonna use your work. I find value in work, so I definitely appreciate that.
There you go.
And
I'm a big fan of Ricky's. I don't even know if she understands how much I'd be like.
Yeah, she got fans. I mean, she got people coming up to me in Apple stores. I got like in the mall. So she's. But my point is that I actually I like that kind of principled engagement. It's like we don't. It's I can appreciate elements of your work, and then I'll criticize you when necessary from that basis of principled work. That's all good. Even when we disagree, I still think that's all good.
Right.
But this other stuff, if I'm going to show up on Renee's Saturdays just to say she's an MPP hater or whatever, I would love it if somebody said, here's a critique of Renee. Renee got this and this wrong about her assessment of this. Renee said this, and this is what I think is wrong about that.
Right.
I would think that that's all good.
Right. Absolutely. Show me where I'm wrong. I'm good.
Look at diverse tribe pushing my work. I'm a sucker for that diverse tribe. So you could give Renee all the hard time you want if you're gonna put.
No, they don't. You know what? I'm not.
I'm just messing with you.
And I actually appreciate call it out. Let's have the discourse. But okay, time. It's 12:30. I don't want to get off without talking about what happened in Alabama.
Well, either people are going to go watch Warrior Class or they're going to go watch RBN Tear Us Up. So I want to make sure that everybody's able to get situated for whatever they prefer.
Go do what y'all got to do. It's all good. I got
Alabama
a little bit. So Alabama. So why don't you start with the second one, which is the explanation of like what exactly happened. I think it's a CBS, and we don't have to play the video because it's mad trigger warning. I don't particularly want to watch it, but there are 3 links.
There's 3, and you said the second one,
the one in the middle. Yeah.
All right. So trigger warning.
Back to what exactly happened that night. So.
All right. Do you want to give any prep, or is the video going to give the prep?
Well, I don't. Let's not show the video because I don't think I can mentally handle watching another man get killed by the police. So StephenPerkins this happened in Decatur, Alabama. The repo truck came to take his car. He went outside to find out like why the repo person was taking the car. My understanding is that the car was not supposed to be repossessed. They didn't have any past due payments on the car. I haven't researched any of that. I haven't spoken to the family. We were actually going to try and bring the family on today, but we couldn't get everything like kind of lined up properly at the last minute. So, from what I understand, the repo person called the police when they were on the way to get the car is the only thing I can understand is happening. Although they claim there's no 911 call, but I'm trying to understand why the police would come if there was no 911 call. But within seconds of Mr. Perkins coming out of his house to address the tow truck driver, he was shot to death by police in his driveway. Now, we can share the link in the show. I don't want to watch it. I'll be honest. Like I'm not going to
play it. I don't want to watch it. Scrolling through the text to see.
But the text explains that they show the police officers going through the neighborhood. They show them coming through the neighbor's yard. They can hear when Mr. Perkins comes out of his house and says, what's happening. And within seconds, I think they say it was 12 seconds or something. It's in there. They started shooting and they shot this man to death in his driveway. And then the tow truck driver took his car and drove off. And
15 rounds were fired.
15 yards. Yep.
And they
video shows. You see? Oh, there it is. Scroll up a little bit. It says the video shows shots rang out 4 seconds after Perkins yelled at the tow truck driver.
Wait, was that on the screen here?
It's underneath the customers. There it goes. They begin screaming police. Gunshots could be heard within 7 seconds of Perkins walking outside. Video shows shots rang out 4 seconds after Perkins yelled at the tow truck driver. So the first story, so you can come out because the first story is an AP story, and this was the first thing that I got about this that had me going down this again my rabbit holes trying to find what exactly happened. The police initially, shockingly, lied about what happened. And they did not, from what I could tell, they didn't know that there was a neighbor who had the whole thing recorded. So the police chief had to come out and apologize for the lies they told with regard to them shooting this man to death in his driveway because the repo man was trying to take his car and he came out to find out what was going on.
So they claimed initially that the police said to Perkins to drop his weapon and that he refused to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And that what actually
ordered Perkins
happened
to get on the ground, and none of that happened.
Is it ordered to get on, and none of that happened, yeah. Because in 4 seconds they were already shooting.
Right.
15 rounds.
39 years old.
And at worst, he was being accused of not being up to payments on his truck.
Right. Not owing money on his truck. At worst. Right. Right. Big Teal, that's the issue, Big Teal. There is footage. And I suspect that the police did not anticipate that there would be somebody in the neighborhood who had the whole thing recorded with sound and where you could hear exactly what happened, and that what they claimed happened with regard to this man's murder was not what happened. So, as someone, as you know, who is adamantly trying to get people to understand police propaganda and what, the lies that are told by these police reports and all these things, like, it's just, this man lost his life over non-payments on his pickup truck. Right. There's not. So the third link that I sent is now, we're a couple of weeks now since this happened. And the family has been coming out. The family's been trying to get some eyes on the story. Trying to get more people to kind of look into what's going on. And you can play this one if you want, because the way they framed this story in this thing is like, I was like, wow,
man, I'm sorry, Renee, just quickly.
The ads.
No, but I want to give a quick media studies lesson, because this ad has to be specific to me being the one. This is not a coincidence. That's what I think is so powerful about the surveillance and the digital, the surveillance capitalism, as Zuboff calls it, that is happening here. And I don't mind disclosing. I'm not even trying to give them an ad. I just bought something from this company, so there's zero chance this is an accident.
That's wild, isn't it?
There's zero chance that particular ad is accidentally showing up on that. And it's very, the system is beautiful. I'm not even going to front. I hate it. It's horrific, but it's beautifully done, and they're only getting better. So Sorry, but yeah,
no, go ahead.
I can play this whenever.
No, you can play it. The framing. I just take note of the framing.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Protests over the police shooting death of Steve Perkins.
The downtown Decatur merchants called off tonight's third Friday event after they say they were made aware of threats and violence toward protesters.
So the framing is from the merchants, the business community's framing, and they had to call off. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
3 weeks to the day that Perkins was shot outside his home as officers responded to the scene where a tow truck driver was repossessing his truck. WAAY 31's Jillian Kay is live in Decatur now, where protesters are calling for federal officials to get involved. Jillian.
That's right. The leaders of this organization are demanding justice for Perkins and his family. They tell me they will not stop until their voices are heard.
Everybody should be upset. Not just Black people, not just Hispanic people. Everybody should be upset.
Standing in Power say they advocate for the safety of all Black people. Now they're demanding the FBI and Department of Justice investigate the police for Perkins' death.
This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so this may take a year or two, but we will support the Perkins family until they get justice.
They are also asking that all officers involved in Perkins' death be removed from the force. Now, the group also says that 8 protesters have been arrested, and police tell me that one of these protesters has actually pled guilty and is now serving a 15-day jail sentence. Live in Decatur, Jillian Kay, Wave 31 News.
Wait, I blacked out for a second. Who's serving the sentence? What?
One of the protesters. That's what I'm saying.
So the business community was interrupted, and the protesters get arrested. The black man gets killed. The tow truck driver drives off with his car, and the police go back to work. Just wanted, okay.
Yeah. Yep. That's the framing. It's just, it's wild. It's wild. Like I purposely picked that story, that piece to share, because I really found it disgraceful, right? Like, this is the local news, right? Like, and this was their framing. We're not going to really focus on the fact that you have a man who was shot to death by the police, lied about by the police in an effort to hide that they shot this man to death without reason. But this is, this is rinse and repeat, just like somebody else said. It's the same cycle over and over and over again, where the loss of life is completely dismissed as not, that's not the relevant thing here, right? It's not the important fact. And it's a continuation. It's like the continued effort to dehumanize Black people and to dismiss their life, and that's just not important. That's not the fact.
And Diverse, we hear you. This is the question you keep, I get it. But this is, and my refrain is, the answers are not given on YouTube. There is no, we have to be in organizational spaces offline.
Organize within your community.
Because beyond that, I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I don't have another answer either. Like, go find an organization within your community that is doing something to attempt to change the material conditions of those within your community. That's the only answer I got. And there's always going to be a battle between those communities and the system, because the system has no interest in supporting anything that is working outside of the system. That's not the goal. That's not what they want. They're not interested in that.
I need to get another punching bag. I feel like I'm definitely missing mine right now. But I broke that thing. I broke it. I had a kick bag. I had a kickboxing kick bag in my basement a couple years ago, and I beat it off the wall, off the ceiling. Broke a chunk out the ceiling. But it was good therapy. I need to get it again. It was good therapy. I needed a sturdier version, but because those stories are infuriating.
It's awful, and I can't. That's why I was like, please don't play it. I don't
want to see it. I don't want to see
it. I don't,
either.
And I stopped watching them because I don't have it in me anymore to watch people's lives get extinguished for nothing. Like I just don't.
And I can't help but thinking, I mean, who upon looking out their window and seeing somebody with a tow truck pulling your car off, who would not walk outside
and ask what the hell is going on? Right.
Not one person would sit in their room and sit at the window and be like, oh, well, damn.
Yep.
I guess that's happening. Every one of us would at least go outside and be like, my man.
What are you doing? Right.
And if 4 seconds later, 15 rounds are already being shot.
Right. So, all right. So let's save the Cop City list because it's now 12:44, and I
don't want no more beef. Yeah.
I don't want you to have no more beef, and I actually need to get going from this office. It'll be nice when I don't have to do this from work
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We're aspiring. We're aspiring to that. Well, again, thank you very much, Renee.
No problem. That list is growing. So just so people know, I'm on the hunt to find all the cities where there is a new COP facility being built or has been built within the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm at 25. So yeah, and that's across the country, not like, 5, 6 people, 5, 6 cities within a state. This is different states, different cities. And I got real frustrated, but I was going to share what I had found just because I thought
I could pull it up real quick if you want, but otherwise we could just, if you want, we can tease it.
Yeah, we can tease it real quick so people, I think people realize now how like my rabbit holes get. they might be getting used to it.
Let's see. There we go.
So what I did was I started with just the cities that people had mentioned that I was aware of. And then I started just Googling, like, police facility in this state and to see, like, did something pop up? And those right now, that's the list that I'm at with the article that I found so that people understood it was a resourced list of all the cities that right now either broke ground, they're assessing, they're planning, they've gotten money towards revamping, expanding, completely building.
So Yonkers and Nashville have already broken ground.
Yep. Wild.
Cape Coral, Florida began construction.
Yep.
Atlanta's planned.
And I didn't give a link to Atlanta because everybody's, fully aware of that.
It's hot right now, yeah.
It's hot right now, right? So we can get into that a little more. I'll take some more time. I haven't gone through all the states, so I'm just gonna eat it and go through all the states and see what I can find. But
all right.
Well, yeah, we can get back to it next week. So
I'm gonna go stretch for Warrior class.
Go stretch.
I will see you in if not sooner, at least next week.
Absolutely.
And back tomorrow with Hiram Rivera, going to talk about how he has his visits to the West Bank and what he thinks is going on in the so-called Middle East. So, and much more coming up. So make sure you have the bell rung, like, share, subscribe. Thanks again, Renee. Peace to everybody. If you're willing to fight for it, like
there you go. Peace out, folks. Thanks for coming out.